of mobility is one of the most exciting conversations globally. Our next session explores a fascinating debate: EV versus FFV, the Mojo Factor. May I invite the moderator and panelists to begin the discussion, welcoming our moderator, Mr. Sreeraman Thiagrajan. A round of applause for our moderator, please. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Sreeraman. Thank you for joining us. Calling for our panelists, Mr. Vikram Gulati, Mr. Prashant Banerjee, and Mr. Harish Mehta. A very, very warm welcome to all of you. Before I hand over to our moderator for this session, we have a special moment as KPMG unveils its white paper on ethanol. So for that, I would like to welcome on stage once again Mr. Nikhil Moge. Can I request you to join us on stage for the unveiling of the white paper on ethanol? You can all hold it, and we can all unveil it together. You can untie the ribbon, and first we can get a picture, then I'll give you a countdown and you can all unveil it. 3, 2, and 1. Can we please have a round of applause, everyone in the audience? Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Mr. Nikhil, for joining us once again. May I request you to please say a few words?
Good afternoon, everyone. When we were putting up this paper, we thought that what's a apt time to write about something which is to do with energy security. And, this paper we have put up in terms of looking at what is E20 and beyond. There are 5 pillars on which we are talking of. The first one is essentially beyond food, what is the feedstock that can go into ethanol manufacturing. Second is around the pricing element, how do we price and what are the innovative mechanisms we can look at for pricing of ethanol. The third one is on infrastructure. And if you recall, my yesterday's panel, we talked a lot about infrastructure creation for looking up or run up to E100. And the last one, which is more important, is consumer awareness. So I hope, this white paper would serve the purpose what it is meant for, and feel free to download it, and we'll be more than happy to have your feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, KPMG, for the knowledge. Lot of efforts that's been put into this paper. It says beyond E20. It kind of marks all the milestones that are to be covered in the ethanol journey, and some of the challenges, and some of them can be addressed collectively by the people in this room. So I'm sure most of you would pick up a copy of this. If anyone needs it, we can arrange it for you. So that being said, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. I mean it sincerely. This last week was the Environment Day, and we saw a very, very crucial landmark event in Indian green energy, and probably in the possibility of our next generation breathing much cleaner air than we do. What I'm talking about is Hero came up with 2-wheelers of flex fuel that could run from any blend of ethanol. Maruti launched its car, and IOCL launched its first fuel pump that can dispense E85. So this is a well-timed orchestration that's happening. So this had to, it wasn't easy. Many of these people had to get into the room and plan it out across, stakeholders, across value chain. And it is one of the best welcome move that the ethanol industry could look forward to. While beyond that, I'm also talking about a regular guy who cares about the air I breathe and for my children. So, does this really mark a milestone moment in India's green fuel revolution? I open the question, Mr. Gulati, sir.
Yeah, thank you first. First of all, thank you for giving the opportunity of being here today. Yes, it's absolutely going to be a turning point in terms of India's shift towards sustainable mobility. Simply put, the kind of number of vehicles that are being sold today and the pace at which the market is growing, it is really a time for us to shift towards cleaner fuels, cleaner energy formats. Because the situation is that we all know about the energy part in terms of how much forex is being spent, $132 billion just for oil last fiscal, and this is going to get even worse. And of course, environment impact is there. Given the scale at which we are moving and given many other challenges, there is no one technology which can help us address our nation's challenges, and therefore biofuels is a very important rule and route. And now with flex fuel vehicles coming forth in terms of products now getting launched and the infrastructure beginning to roll out, this is really going to be a time when the huge surplus potential that exists today by way of ethanol and CBG, this could be the start of a revolution towards clean mobility, powered by indigenous fuel, which is clean and which can enable us to shift towards greener future at scale and at speed like no other technology can.
Thank you, sir. I have a lot of follow-up questions. I'm going to come to you. Mr. Mehta, what do you think? How are the OMC's point of view on the arrival of FFVs?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So I think before I respond to your question, let me just give the context. The other low carbon energy solution has been CNG, but there is a fundamental difference. The CNG was pushed primarily by the courts. In the early 2000s, it was Supreme Court as well as the Bombay High Court, which hotly pursued the entire rollout of the supply chain and the network development. Whereas in case of the biofuel policy, it was more of a government policy push, which eventually turned into a national biofuel policy in 2009. And in my view, this ethanol 20% and beyond is going to be the most successful program, because if I look at the three most important stakeholders in the whole system, that is the nation, then the farming community and the industry, and third, the most important, the consumer. Looking at the nation, India is the third largest energy consuming nation in the world. We consume around 660 million metric tons of oil equivalent every year. And just last week, Citi has released a report. Over the next 2 decades, 50% of the incremental energy demand of the world is going to come from only India. And all of you are aware that, we import around 89% of the crude. So it's very important that this ethanol 20% program itself has, I would say that, helped to reduce $7 billion worth of, forex revenue. And coming to the farming community and the industry perspective, the crop diversification has done immensely good to the farmers in the country. Around a decade back, the ethanol used to come almost entirely from sugarcane or from molasses. And now if you see, 70% or 65% of the ethanol is produced from maize, from defective food grain, and also the surplus rice. And it is adding to the farmers' income by 40,000 crores every year. I think that's a big number, and it's going to give the impetus for the farmers to do, progress in this direction. And lastly, of course, the consumers, which is the most important part. I think the clean environment and the economics. This is going to drive the consumers. Just
course,
half
sir,
a minute more.
Betting on our sun, soil and farmer is never going to be a wrong idea. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Mr. Banerjee, what are automakers in a dilemma of any sort with the EV versus FFV, with lot of policies coming and lot of lobbying happening on which one being a silver bullet? Or is it like Mr. Gulati said, there isn't a single silver bullet? It's going to be a balance.
At the outset, I would like to thank ChiniMandi for giving this platform for SIAM. I represent automobile industry. 52 members of Global Who is actually our member. And India aspiring rising with third largest marketplace. The aspirational India's requirement of mobility is so much that today we are only 35 cars per 1,000 people, 123 two-wheelers per 1,000 people. And if I compare it with the standard of developed nations, 600 plus cars per 1,000 people. And India's requirement of rural development versus urban development, I think the time is ripe. And it's a momentous occasion that despite such a large largest democracy in the world, with such a large diversity, multi-party systems, the geopolitical uncertainty based complete import of our 85% of the crude, even within our country, state-center relationship, complex legal, financial development status, post-independence, but the amount of progression we have achieved in this particular subject, I think I can surely say that extraordinary collaboration, cooperation, communication and acceptance, whether it's ethanol producers, farmers, center, state, OMCs, OEMs, government, remarkable moment for all of us, and the shortest possible time. We have achieved this 20%. We are talking about 25% reduction now.
Sir, no
And
doubts
then
there at all.
we'll be
but
going
from
to-
OEMs, are they in a fix between where to sway? Should they
Now,
make more
now
EVs?
coming to this, progression has happened here. But at the same time, because energy need is so much, there is investment on electric, there is investment on biofuel, CNG we talked about, which is also transitional for decarbonization point of view. So I think this debate is very clear that we cannot have a single silver bullet, and we have to rely on multi-fuel, multi-powertrain, multi-path approach. Then only we can realize.
Very well said, sir. On the success of E20, I'm happy. So are everyone in this room, because we are the industry people. But my next question, I leave it open. Any one of you can pick it up. It's a tricky one. Most customers, while we are already applauding E85, most consumers today can't even tell what is E20, and we have seen enough social media barrage and WhatsApp forwards about made up stuff. In fact, even the Honorable Minister told somebody's diesel vehicle, they're complaining their vehicle was malfunctioning due to ethanol in it, right? So who will bell the cat in terms of, addressing this consumer sentiment? Because by the time, the old adage, right? Truth puts on a shoe, liars traveled halfway around the world. So a lot of misinformation about what ethanol can actually do and what it means has gone so deep. While the industry is technical and we are investing several hundred crores in plant and expansion capacity, I was in fact looking at mutual fund. There is an entire body called AMFI, Association of Mutual Fund in India, who have to mandatorily spend certain amount in consumer education. Mutual funds sahi hai. You see some of the best cricketers coming and telling us mutual funds sahi hai, right? While a lot of money has been lost in F&O, several billions, mutual fund and SIP has been a good growth in India thanks to the consumer education, right? So whose responsibility is it to educate customer about E20, let alone E85? That looks even bigger task for me.
So I'll just take that. So I think you've raised a very, very important point, because just probably a year back, we had this huge controversy with people talking about E20 having impact on their vehicles. We faced it head on. And one of the reasons why we could face it was because in 2021, there was a very elaborate and detailed study done on the impact of E20 on older cars. So first of all, you have to have your facts right to be able to make any headway with the consumer. Second part, of course, is about communication, about creating awareness. So armed with facts and figures which are based upon verifiable, transparent, and scientific testing, that's the foundation. even if you're looking at, any shift of the base fuel, E20, 21, 22, whatever, that has to be must, right? Without that, heading in a direction of changing monofuel, etc., is going to be disastrous. Primarily because you won't have the base to tell the consumer. Second, of course, is creating awareness. For example, E85, people are confused. Is it for regular vehicles? The missing gap there is that E85 is primarily for flex fuel vehicles. People don't even know what flex fuel vehicles are. Yes. So we have to, I think it's a joint responsibility of all stakeholders, whether it's the OEMs or the ethanol manufacturers or the oil marketing company or the government, I think, to come forward to create that awareness, what a flex fuel technology is, what is E85 meant for, how that E20 cannot make any impact on older vehicles because there is study. So I think that's going to be critical for a successful way ahead in terms of increasing the use of ethanol in the automotive sector.
Right. Yeah. So if you actually do the math, the subsidies given to an EV is almost cost of a two-wheeler. So somebody buying a second car, in fact, I had this concept called reverse Robin Hood. Like, we are taking away what a suburban family could buy their first car or a two-wheeler and giving it as a subsidy to the somebody buying one more EV, right? Because EVs are usually starts at 15 lakh plus. So somebody's second car, right, at the cost of somebody buying maybe a two-wheeler EV, which could be and also the percentage might be the same. So a subsidy for a EV two-wheeler could come down to a few thousand, but a subsidy for a EV SUV is in several lakhs, or at least up to ₹1 lakh. I'll come to this, but Mehta ji, where do you stand on EV versus FFV, or EV being positioned as a hero for all the pollution problems we have?
Yeah, but my views are very clear that, first of all, India is the third largest automobile market in the world. We sell close to 29 million vehicles every year. Of course, majority of them are the two-wheelers, around 22, 23 million wheelers. So it's all multiple fuel pathways are going to coexist. I think the energy transition in India is going to be driven by portfolio of low carbon energy solutions. So in my view, the government has to some extent done a good job that at least the EVs, the CNG vehicles, as well as the flex fuel vehicles, the GST they have, moderated to 5%, which is a concessional GST. But you are right that there are some incentives being given to EVs. I think it has to be looked at afresh by the government that as far as the incentives are concerned, they should be, completely looked at with neutrality from the technology perspective. That should be the, point of view. So anything which reduces or improves the environment, reduces pollution, reduces the dependence on the imported oil, or, creates, does value creation in the country, has to be promoted almost uniformly. So I think there's a requirement to look at the moderation of the incentives across the three, but all of them are going to coexist. It's such a massive big market. It will not be possible that we put one against the other.
Right. Gulati-san, the story that gets told around EV is zero tailpipe emission, but for a country where we run about 70-75% coal, the tailpipe emission is zero, yes, but a smokestack somewhere else, right? So what's your view on EVs?
Well, EVs are definitely good, so there's no two questions about it, because in the future we are going to go towards renewable. But I think I echo what has been just said. We have to now go to a very transparent parameter of measuring the impact on the environment. The world is going there. Brazil, for example, also measures the carbon intensity of energy. So they measure what is the carbon content of electricity in their average grid, what is the carbon content of petrol, diesel, ethanol. And when they formulate policies not only for the vehicle side carbon emissions, but also from the energy side. Now that's a very holistic way of doing it. Now, if you go to Europe, 22 countries out of 29 countries, in addition to CAFE, have some form of carbon taxation either on the time of purchase or at the time of acquisition. Why am I talking about carbon? Because that addresses what you're saying. It's not just about tailpipe. Going in the future, given the climatic challenges that we're facing, the world is going to move towards the total life cycle perspective. The earlier we do it in terms of moving away from tailpipe to well to wheel to life cycle, the better it is for us. And just to give you a factoid, I don't know how many people here would actually know that if you were to buy a flex fuel today, you would actually pay more tax than a petrol car. That's a fact. Now we have to rectify it, because there is no point about talking about environment, sustainability, ethanol, if the consumer is asked to pay more tax. It doesn't make sense. Consumer is an economic rational person. He or she is going to buy what makes economic sense. So on top of higher manufacturing cost, today the reality is the consumer will pay a substantially higher tax to the government, whether it's the GST or the road tax. That's because the rates are same. Now, what I'm saying is that some sort of formulation needs to come in, that's left to the government, where at least the customer does not pay more tax for buying a cleaner technology. Then it is the responsibility of the OEMs to bring in scale and reduce the manufacturing cost, so that a virtuous cycle can come into play.
Sir, two time frames. Okay, so because you are an OEM and you are a voice of OEM, 100 years ago today, let's say 1926, there was no fuel pump in India at all. It took 2 more years. 1928 is the first fuel pump in Bombay that came. Or let's go to more recent times of CNG, right? Even though CNG was originally introduced in 92, till about the 98 when the mandate came, nobody was serious about it, right? So it's the same story with FFV. People were, everybody were laughing. Are ek car launch kar diya, like, where is the fuel pump? Okay, there is a fuel pump. Ek fuel pump. This story has been sold many times. Today, Delhi alone has 600 CNG pumps, just one city, right? So what is the time frame that you see for us, even if OEMs will mass produce and reduce at a cost level, and let's say policy wise it gets, if not mandated, at least a good push for mass adoption? What is the time frame we are looking at?
So first of all, I must make a point that we are really grateful to the government. They are really moving fast on this. Really acknowledge the hard work being done. What the other day, 48 FFV enabled E85 pumps got commissioned. 150 by next month, 500 by end of this year, 5,000 by end of next year. That's the kind of scaling we are looking at. The OMCs and the OEMs are working closely with the government to do this. And the problem that I mentioned about taxation, that's also because it's inadvertent. This technology is just coming in. People won't know about it. It is something that is inadvertent, and I'm sure that the government, which is enabling this ecosystem to come up, will address such issues. They have been very aggressive in terms of ensuring that this pathway takes off. And I'm very confident that just like the ecosystem for dispensing is going to be taken care of, the other asks for consumer acceptance will also happen. I think a very important step in this direction was the 20% differential between the price of ethanol and petrol. That just shows how committed the government is. And I must also recognize the fact that in the upcoming CAFE regulation, which impacts all the OEMs, the government has been careful in dealing with giving treatment to electric and flex fuel at the same level. A very balanced, scientific and fair treatment. So we must recognize that, given that all of this is happening, I'm confident that with this government, we are definitely going to get policy enablers, not only at the consumer side, but also at the point of dispensation infrastructure.
Sir, since you adequately addressed this, I'll ask a little different question to my fellow panelist here. The 20 rupees reduction is a key point. So somebody on Twitter did a whole math and came up with a difference of, despite the 20 rupees drop, a 30 paise difference in per kilometer cost if you are driving an FFV, right? Again, carbon based fuel will always be cheaper in terms of absolute value, but if you add the social value, it's a hugely different equation. Again, comes down to consumer sentiment. But what are energy companies doing? What are auto companies doing? How do we, tell the customer this 30 paisa is not really a big deal?
Sreeraman, earlier question also you said that who will promote. In my view, more important question rather than who will promote is what is the value proposition we are going to offer to the customers. So I think it has to be across 3 dimensions. Number 1, of course, cleaner environment, clean and green fuel. I agree with Mr. Gulati that the customer is a very, very economically, literate person. He or she is going to look at the economics part. So the second, in my view, is going to be the economics part, which we need to educate as part of our overall value proposition. And third is the biggest challenge, which is the supply chain. Because you will need separate tanks for ethanol at every fuel station, wherever you want to launch it. So, in my view, as far as we should look at some of the models, like in Brazil, for decades they ran a promotional program at their fuel stations, wherein they put a, big hoardings or whatever notings that 70% price transparency challenge. So the mind of the customer has to be moved from that, oh, he's buying a fuel which is less efficient or with low mileage, to that he's buying a fuel which is giving him the cost advantage. And of course, the supply chain part, Minister has already said that 5,000 stations will be offering flex fuel by next year end. I think all the oil companies, marketing oil companies, have approximately, I think, 40% stations which have the premium fuels. The sale of premium fuels after the government had put excise duty has almost become negligible, hardly 0.2%, 0.3%, maybe less than 1%, I would say that. I think there is an opportunity to convert large number of those tanks, because there was a separate tank for the premium fuel at those outlets, to convert them into the ethanol tanks. And that's how I think this whole rollout for providing the flex fuel facility at the fuel station can be accelerated.
Thank you, sir. So the value proposition, how do we see that happening, sir? How does a customer believe this 30 paisa is okay?
To my mind, I think, first of all, in any business, whether it's a OMC business or ethanol producer business or auto company's business, or even for consumer, because ultimately consumer is using the vehicle for his business purpose. Stability of policy, consistency, and very clarity. These 3 things are very essential. What is missing today is customer is little bit worried. He is not sure that if he buys a particular option of vehicle, will he be really getting the fuel at right price consistently all the time in all the places? So I think oil marketing companies are also thinking what happens post Hormuz, or if what happens if the price underwriting is not done. OEMs are thinking, we introduce a product, if customer does not get the benefit, whether they will buy or not. So to my mind, the first and foremost is clarity, consistency, and stability of policies, both in terms of regulations, in terms of standards, and in terms of what we intend to promote. My only one question is, if energy equivalence point of view, we are very clear that ethanol versus gasoline is having 30-35% gap. If we have to promote ethanol, then beyond energy equivalence, you should give 2 rupees or 1 rupee or 50 paisa, whatever plus. Right now, what is happening, we are hoping that because consumer is buying a great product which is serving environment, so he should, pay from his pocket and do it. And that's where perhaps the program will not be successful. So it's important that we define the pricing of, what is economy to customer. And customer centricity is the central point of the success of the program.
Right.
And everything should revolve around that.
Thank you, sir. In fact, we are just about time, but I remember a campaign that I was involved in about 10 years ago. It was called Give It Up. This was requesting or appealing to consumers to voluntarily give up their LPG subsidy. And if you notice, it was done from MOPNG. So every fuel pump in the country had that hoarding or the billboard, right? And that space was actually used to educate customer on why they should give it up, right? And sir, you spoke highly about the optimism that we have in the state right now, in the government right now. So I think it's all about few more pieces coming together, little more gears, all being in tune, that with the right consumer education, with the stability. And thank you, sir, Mr. Banerjee, that it's not just, we don't expect consumer to simply shell out that extra rupee as long as they understand the value. And yes, it is indeed a great moment for the flex fuel, for our biofuels, and for cleaner air. And this week or this month has been great. And we all look forward to, and EV alone is not a silver bullet, so is FFV. So amazing insights from my fellow panelists and audience. You have been quietly listening. Thank you so much. And have a rest of the great conference. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for yet another thought-provoking conversation that you all shared with us. Thank you so much for that. I would like to request on stage MD National Federation, Mr. Prakash Naik Navre. Can you please join us on stage, sir, and felicitate our moderator and our panelists. Let's begin with our, thank you, our moderator, Sreeraman Thiagrajan. Thank you so much, Vikram Gulati. Prashant Banerjee. And Harish Mehta. May I please request everyone to come together for a group photograph? Thank you so much, everyone. Please have a seat. Thank you very much.